And so the key, I think, to all of these religious outlooks are sacred values, things that can't be questioned. Diversity, obviously, is the key one. You know, you could never have too much of it. So I talk about it, the idea of an optimal amount of diversity. You know, I would think there is an optimal amount. That too much actually causes problems, and too little causes problems. Now that would be heretical, because diversity is an end in itself. It is a sacred value. Same with this idea that all major, you know, all cultural groups, particularly the race, gender, sexuality ones, must have equal outcomes on anything that matters, such as income, at least an equal outcome, or better than the majority group. It's simply inexcusable to imagine that an ethnic group like Latinos could have a lower income or a lower wealth than whites. That must be proof of oppression and discrimination. Whereas one would never say, for example, that if Londoners have a higher average income than people in the northeast of England, that is proof of systemic discrimination. Or, for example, that people with, even somebody from a better educated background having more income than a lower educated background, that's proof of some kind of systemic discrimination. Or Jews having more average income than, I don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses, right? So there's only certain categories that people care about, and typically those are going to be the race, sex, gender, holy trinity, if you like. So the key is this very much sacralization, and that's a choice. So it used to be that the proletariat was sacralized, and now it's marginalized, you know, racial and gender and sex groups. That's the sort of switch we've seen. You could equally imagine a world where it would be disabled people, or it would be left-handed people, or people who were, you know, born as second or third order children, who we know on average do less well than people who are the firstborn. But, you know, we don't have that. We have instead chosen these other categories. So yeah, you know, this was, I was saying with diversity, the key here, I think, is this idea of Isaiah Berlin, the English political theorist, who argues there's a distinction between what he called negative liberty and positive liberty. The one that I hold to is the negative liberty, which says people have their rights and freedoms so long as you don't sort of impede somebody else's liberties. You have your own liberty. So we all have to tolerate, I think, diversity, and that's where I would be on board, would be a kind of diversity, toleration, equal rights. You know, that is the kind of liberalism that I subscribe to. But the left modernism, what it does is it goes from you must tolerate diversity, which I think we all must tolerate diversity to be in a liberal society, to you must prefer diversity over less diversity, and that suddenly you're dictating taste.